The lisping man, the man with the lisp. The end of the Institute, Part 3. The man with the lisp. Actually, preferably, before I really begin, let me make sure I'm reading the right thing. Alright, The Lisping Man, Chapter 2. The end of the Institute, Part 3. A novel by Stephen King. Tim expected Wendy back from Columbia for supper, but she called and said she had to stay over. Yet another meeting about the future of Fairleigh County law enforcement had been scheduled for the following morning. Jesus, won't this ever be over? Tim said. I'm pretty sure this will be the last one. It's a complicated situation, and bureaucracy makes everything worse. All okay there? All fine, Tim said, and hoped it was true. He made a big pot of spaghetti for supper. Lou threw together a bolognese sauce. Kalisha and Nikki collaborated on a salad. Annie had disappeared, as she often did. They ate well. There was good talk, and a fair amount of laughter. Then, as Tim was bringing a Pepperidge Farm cake back from the fridge, holding it high like a comic opera waiter, he saw that Kalisha was crying. Nick and Luke had each put an arm around her, but spoke no comforting words, at least that Tim could hear. They looked thoughtful, introspective, with her, but not perhaps completely with her, perhaps lost in their own concerns. Tim set the cake down. What's wrong, Kay? I'm sure they know, but I don't, so help a brother out. What if he's right? What if that man is right and Luke is wrong? What if the world ends in 3 years or 3 months because we're not there to protect it? And I'm not wrong, Luke asked. They've got mathematicians, but I'm better. It's not bragging if it's the truth. And what he said about me, that magical thinking thing, is true of them too. They can't bear to think they're wrong. You're not sure, she cried. I can hear it in your head, Lukey. You're still not sure. Luke did not deny this, just stared down at his plate. Kalisha looked up at Tim. What if they're only right once? Then it will be on us. Tim hesitated. He didn't want to think that what he said next might have a major influence on how this girl lived the rest of her life. There was no way he wanted that responsibility, but he was afraid he had it anyway. The boys were listening too, listening and waiting. He had no psychic powers, but there was one power he did have. He was the grown-up, the adult. They wanted him to tell them there was no monsters under the bed. It's not on you. It's not on any of you. That man didn't come to warn you to be quiet. He came to poison your life. Don't let him do it, Kalisha. Don't any of you let him do it. As a species, we're built to do one thing above all others, and you kids did it. He reached out with both hands and wiped the tears from Kalisha's cheeks. You survived. You used your love. You used your love and your wits, and you survived. Now let's have some cake. Chapter 3, Part 3 of the End of the Institute. The Lisping Man. Friday came, and it was Nick's turn to go. Tim and Wendy stood with Luke, watching as Nicky and Kalisha walked down the driveway with their arms around each other. Wendy would drive him to the bus station in Brunswick, but the three, up here, understood that those two needed and deserved a little time together first, to say goodbye. Let's go over it again, Tim had said an hour earlier. After lunch, neither Nicky nor Kalisha did much with. Tim and Nicky had gone out on the back stoop, while Nick and Kalisha did up the few dishes. No need, Nicky said. I got it, man, really. Just the same, Tim said. It's important. Brunswick to Chicago, right? Right. The bus leaves at 7:15 tonight. Who do you talk to on the bus? Nobody. Draw no attention. And when you get there, I call my Uncle Fred from the Navy Pier, because that's where the kidnappers dropped me off. Same place to drop George and Helen off. But you don't know that. No, I don't. Do you know George and Helen? Never heard of them. And who are the people who took you? Don't know. What did they want? Don't know. It's a mystery. They didn't molest me. They didn't ask me questions. I didn't hear any other kids. I don't know Jack. When the police question me, I don't add anything. That's right. Eventually the cops give up and I go to Nevada and live happily ever after with my aunt and uncle and Bobby. Bobby being Nick's brother, who had been at a sleepover on the night Nick was taken. And when you find out your parents are dead, news to me, and don't worry, I'll cry. It won't be hard, and it won't be fake. Trust me on that. Can we be done? Almost. First, unball your fists a little. The ones at the ends of your arms and the ones in your head. Give happily ever after a chance. Not easy, man. Nicky's eyes gleamed with tears. Not fucking easy. I know, Tim said, and risked a hug. Nick allowed it passively at first, then hugged back, hard. Tim thought it was a start, and he thought the boy would be fine no matter how many questions the police threw at him, no matter how many times they told him it didn't make any sense. George Owls was the one Tim worried about when it came to adding stuff. The kid was an old school mouth and a born embellisher. Tim thought, however, hoped, that he had finally gotten the point across to George. What you didn't know kept you safe. What you added could trip you up. Now Nick and Kalisha were embracing by the mailbox at the foot of the driveway, where Mr. Smith had laid blame in his lisping voice, trying to sow guilt on children who had only wanted to stay alive. He really loves her, Luke said. Yes, Tim thought, and so do you. But Luke wasn't the first boy to find himself odd man out in Lover's Triangle, and he wouldn't be the last. And was lovers the right word? Luke was brilliant, but he was also 12. His feelings for Kalisha would pass like a fever, although it would be useless to tell him that. He would remember, though just as Tim remembered the girl he'd been crazy about at 12 years old, she had been 16, and light years beyond him. Just as Kalisha would remember Nikki, the handsome one who had fought. She loves you too, Wendy said softly, and put a light squeeze on the back of Luke's sunburned neck. Not the same way, Luke said glumly, but then he smiled. What the hell? Life goes on. You better get the car, Tim said to Wendy. That bus won't wait. She got the car. Luke rode down to the mailbox with her, then stood with Felicia. They waved as the car pulled away. Nicky's hand came out the window and waved back. Then they were gone. In Nick's right front pocket, the one that was hardest for some bus station sharpie to pick, was $70 in cash and a phone card. In his shoe was a key. Luke and Kalisha walked up the driveway together. Halfway there, Kalisha put her hands to her face and started to cry. Tim started to go down, then thought better of it. This was Luke's job, and he did it, putting his arms around her, because she was taller. She rested her head on his head, rather than on his shoulder. Tim heard the hum, now nothing but a low whisper. They were talking, but he couldn't hear what they were saying, and that was all right. It wasn't for him. Chapter 4. The Lisping Man. 2 weeks later, it was Kalisha's turn to go. Not to the bus station in Brunswick, but the one in Greenville. She would arrive in Chicago late the following day and call her sister in Houston from the Navy Pier. Wendy had gifted her with a small, beaded purse, and it was $70 and a phone card. There was a key, identical to Nikki's, in one of her sneakers. The money and phone card could be stolen. The key, never. She hugged Tim hard. That's not enough thanks for what you did, but I don't have anything else. It's enough, Tim said. I hope the world doesn't end because of us. I'm going to tell you this one last time, Shah. If someone pushes the big red button, it won't be you. She smiled wanly. When we're together at the end, we had a big red button to end all big red buttons, and it felt good to push it. That's what haunts me, how good it felt. But that's over. Yes, it's all going away, and I'm glad. No one should have power like that, especially not kids. Tim thought that some of the people who could push the big red button were kids, in mind if not in body, but didn't say so. She was facing an unknown, an uncertain future. And that was scary enough. Kalisha turned to Luke and reached into her new purse. I've got something for you. I had it in my pocket when we left the Institute and didn't realize it. I want you to have it. What she gave him was a crumpled cigarette box. On the front was a cowboy twirling a lariat. Above him was the brand Roundup Candy cigarettes. Below him was smoke just like Daddy. There's only some pieces left, she said, busted up and probably stale too. But Luke began to cry. This time it was Kalisha who put her arms around him. Chapter 5. When Kalisha and Wendy were gone, Tim asked Luke if he wanted to play chess. The boy shook his head. I think I might just go out back for a while and sit under that big tree. I feel empty inside. I never felt so empty. Tim nodded. You'll fill up again. Trust me. I guess I'll have to. Tim, do you think any of them will have to use those keys? No. The keys would open a safety deposit box in a Charleston bank. What Maureen Alverson had given Luke was inside. If anything happened to any of the kids who had now left Catawba Farm, or to Luke, Wendy, or Tim, one of them would come to Charleston and open the box. Maybe all of them would come, if any of the bond forged in the Institute remained. Would anyone believe what's on the flash drive? Annie certainly would, Tim said, smiling. She believes in ghosts, UFOs, walk-ins, you name it. Luke didn't smile back. Yeah, but she's a little, woo-woo. Although she's better now that she's seeing so much of Mr. Denton. Tim's eyebrows went up. Drummer, what are you telling me? That they're dating? I guess so. if that's what you call it when the people doing it are old. You read this in her mind? Luke smiled a little. No, I'm back to moving pizza pans and fluttering book pages, she told me. Luke considered, and I guess it's all right that I told you. It's not like she swore me to secrecy or anything. I'll be damned. As to the flash drive, you know how you can pull on a loose thread and unravel an entire sweater? I think the flash drive might be like that. There are kids on it people would recognize. A lot of them. It would start an investigation, and any hopes that Lisping Guy's organization might have of restarting their program would go out the window. I don't think they can do that. Anyway, he might think so, but it's just more magical thinking. The world has changed a lot since the 1950s. Listen, I'm going to. He gestured vaguely toward the house in the garden. Sure you, go on. Luke started away, not walking exactly, but trudging with his head down. Tim almost let him go, then changed his mind. He caught up to Luke and took him by the shoulder. When the boy turned, Tim hugged him. He had hugged Nicky. Hell, he had hugged them all, sometimes after they awoke from bad dreams, but this one meant more. This one meant the world, at least to Tim. He wanted to tell Luke that he was brave, maybe the bravest kid ever outside of a boy's adventure book. He wanted to tell Luke that he was strong and decent, and his folks would be proud of him. He wanted to tell Luke that he loved him, but there were no words, and maybe no need of them, or telepathy. Sometimes a hug was telepathy. Chapter 6 The Lisping Man. Out back between the stoop and the garden was a fine old pin oak. Luke Ellis, one of Minneapolis, Minnesota, once loved by Herb and Eileen Ellis, once a friend of Maureen Alperson and Kalisha Benson and Nick Wilhelm and George Giles. Sat down beneath it, he put his forearms on his drawn-up knees and looked out toward what Officer Windy called the roller coaster hills. Also, once a friend of Avery, he thought Avery was the one who really got them out. If there was a hero, it wasn't me. It was the Avister. Luke took the crumpled cigarette box from his pocket and fished out one of the pieces. He thought about seeing Kalisha for the first time, sitting on the floor with one of these in her mouth. Want one? She had asked. A little sugar might help your state of mind. It always helps mine. What do you think, Avister? Will it help my state of mind? Luke crunched up the piece of candy. It did help, although he had no idea why. There was certainly nothing scientific about it. He peered into the pack and saw 2 or 3 more pieces. He could eat them now, but it might be better to wait. Better to save some for later. September 23rd, 2018. Alright, that's the end of the Institute. The end of the Institute. Y'all have a very sativa Saturday and a soaring, strengthening, satisfying, spiritual, sunny day ahead of you tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed my book reading of The End of the Institute. This has been Jake Johnstone. JakeJohnstone19.com. Creativity with a passion for a purpose. To entertain, to motivate, to inspire.